Hello and welcome to my channel. Today's video we are going to be making this Michael Myers from the Halloween series. For right now I think he's going to be the last in this series. We have Michael, Sam, Jason, Freddy, Chucky, and Tiffany, I believe, is the ones I've done. I will take requests for other ones, but for now, those are the ones that I thought were the most popular. He is going to be 100% no-sew. We're going to make up his arms first, and then I'm going to put in a different chunk of video, and we're going to do his head, attach his arms, go down his body, through to his feet, and then we will have to embroider his nose, eyebrows, and give him some hair. I'm just going to say, as far as his eyes, I'm having a little trouble with his face, and I think it's because I used round eyes. In this video, I'm going to try these oval-shaped 14mm eyes. These had to be special ordered, but if you happen to have bought a little kit like this that comes with eyes and noses, these little oval-shaped noses, that's not a nice one. Watch me grab the same one. No. These little oval-shaped noses will work as well, but they are only 12mm, and I'm going to be using the 14mm. This is a crochet along, so I will be doing every stitch with you except for a couple of the repeat rows in the middle of his head and his parts of his feet. But if you get lost or I say something that doesn't make sense, like the wrong row, or I skip a number when I'm counting, at the top of your screen for the first 15 seconds of every row there will be a little drop down, and it will have the instructions for that row or the next set of rows. And like always, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button. That helps me out, as well as will give you a notification that I've made a new video, or it will show up in your little YouTube feed. And of course, I always appreciate likes and comments and hearing what you guys have to say. Okay, I hope that's it. So let's get started. Okay, to begin the arm, you're going to take your skin color, make your knot with the loop on the end, insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull through, chain one. And this is just to attach your yarn to your loop. This does not count as a stitch. So for round one, you are going to do 6 single crochets into this loop. And if you're used to the magic circle, you can do that. Just make sure it's 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Grab a stitch marker if you are using one. And for round 2, we are going to do 6 increases, so that's going to be 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around for a total of 12. So increase 1 and 2, increase 3 and 4, increase 5 and 6, increase 7 and 8, increase 9 and 10, increase 11 and 12. Rounds 3 to 5 are going to be 12 single crochets all the way around, and that is 3 rows, so I am going to do that consecutively 3 times 12, so I'm going to do 32 stitches, or 36, sorry, and just flip my stitch marker every time I hit a set of 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Flip your stitch marker if you're using one. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, flip your stitch marker, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36. For row 6, we are going to do 1 single crochet and 1 decrease for a total of 8. 1, decrease for 2, 3, decrease for 4, 5, decrease for 6, 7, and our last decrease for 8, but we will not finish that off, so when you get your 3 loops, you're going to stop, and we're going to change our color to blue. And if you're interested in knowing what color I'm using, in the 3 years I've been doing re-picked up crocheting here, I've never seen this color, and it's called Storm Blue by Bernat in the premium. It's a really pretty color. A hat or a head warmer would look beautiful in that. Okay, so I'm going to cut this so it's a little easier for me to tie on. Grab whatever color of blue you are using, and you're going to tie that on as close to the hook as you can get it. Whoop. That's the only problem with cutting your piece if you cut it too short. Oh my goodness, I did cut it way too short. So about 2 or 3 times should do it. And then you're just going to pull that through and finish that 8th stitch. For rows 7 to 13, we are just going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. That's 7 rows. So 7 times 8 should be, what is it, 56 stitches. So we're going to count to 56, change every time we hit a set of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Flip your stitch marker. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, flip your marker, 25, 26, whoops, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, flip your stitch marker, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, flip your marker. We should have 2 rows left, I think. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, flip your stitch marker, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, and 56. Now, if you just want to check that and make sure you have 14 rows, and this is a reason why I love using yarn as my stitch marker. You can go down every stitch all the way to where you started. The end of row 1 is right there, and you can just count your rows all the way up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So now we are going to put a little bit of stuffing in the hand. And you're just going to take how much you think you might put in both hands for now. And just kind of give them a feel. Making sure you have about the same amount in both sides. And then that way you don't have to guess when you do your second arm how much stuffing you're going to need so they're the same. So put that to the side. And get rid of the stitch marker. And then just stuff it down into the bottom of the hand. You don't need any in the arm unless that's your preference. And then that way the arms will kind of hang down instead of kind of pop out to the side. So just like that. And you're just going to fold it closed. You get your hook back in there. And then you want to have 3 single crochets across the top. So you're going to go into the next stitch. And then the stitch back here where you, your next stitch behind where you were just going. And you want to get on both sides of that V. So there's the stitch you're doing right now, the stitch you're going in, and the other stitch you're going in on each side. And you're going to do that across for 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And make sure you get through both sides. And then you're just going to tie that off, leaving a little bit of a tail so we can tighten those arms up later. So if you just finished arm 1, I'm going to put a screenshot in the next frame with a timestamp to go back to the beginning and do this arm again. If you're on arm 2, you can just keep on watching for about 5 seconds and then we will go to the head. And don't forget, I'll be using this color. So make sure you're using white for his mask. And then I will come back and meet up with you to attach the arms once you're done the head. To begin, we are just going to make a loop as if we were going to start a chain. So just wrap it around your finger, down and through. We're going to be putting 6 single crochets in there. So make it about just a little bigger than your hook. And we're going to put our hook in the loop, grab yarn, pull through, and just do 1 chain to secure our yarn to our loop. And that does not count as a stitch. So for round 1, we're going to do 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Grab your stitch marker if you're using one, and I'm just using a piece of thread. And for round 2, we're going to do 6 increases, so that'll be 2 stitches in every stitch around. So first increase, 1 and 2, increase, 3 and 4, increase, 5 and 6, increase, 7 and 8, increase, 9 and 10, and our last increase, 11 and 12. Flip your stitch marker, and for round 3 we are going to be doing 1 single crochet and 1 increase for a total of 18, and we'll repeat that all the way around. So 1 increase, 2 and 3, and then repeat that sequence, 4, 5 and 6, 7, increase, 8 and 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, and our last increase, 17 and 18. For row 4, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, and repeat that all the way around. 1, 2, and our increase, 3 and 4, 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, 9, 10, increase for 11 and 12, whoops, 13, 14, and our increase, 15 and 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, and our last increase, 23 and 24. Row 5, we're going to do 3 single crochets, 1 increase all the way around, and repeat that for a total of 30. So 1, 2, 3, and an increase, 4 and 5. Repeat that over. 6, 7, 8, and an increase, 9 and 10. 11, 12, 13, and an increase, 14 and 15. 16, 17, 18, and an increase for 19 and 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 and 25, 26, 27, 28, and our last increase, 29 and 30. Row 6, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase 5 and 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, increase 11 and 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, increase 17 and 18. 19, 20, 21, 22, increase 23 and 24. 25, 26, 27, 28, an increase for 29 and 30. 31, 32, 33, 34, and an increase, 35 and 36. Whoops. For round 7, we're going to do 5 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 42. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and our increase 6 and 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, increase 13 and 14. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, increase 20 and 21. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, increase 27 and 28. 29, whoops, 30, 31, 32, 33, and our increase 34 and 35. This should be our last set. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and our increase, 41 and 42. For rows 8 to 14, we are just going to do 42 single crochets all the way around, and that'll be 7 rows. I'll do the first row with you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, maybe yarn is catching here, 38, 39, 40, 41, and 42. Okay, so that would have been row 8. So you're just going to keep continuing on, row 9 to 14. So that'll be 6 more rows. And I will come back and catch you up when we're ready to start row 15. Okay, you should be ready to start row 15, which is going to be 5 single crochets and 1 decrease, and you'll repeat that all the way around for a total of 36. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll do a decrease for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and a decrease, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, decrease 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, decrease 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, whoops, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36 is a decrease. Row 16 is going to be 4 single crochets, 1 decrease all the way around for a total of 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is a decrease. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is a decrease. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 is a decrease. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 is a decrease. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 is a decrease. 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30 is a decrease. Row 17 is going to be 3 single crochets and 1 decrease all the way around for a total of 24. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 is a decrease. 5, 6, 7, 8 is a decrease. Oops. 9, 10, 11, 12 is a decrease. 13, 14, 15, and 16 is a decrease. 17, 18, 19, 20 is a decrease. 21, 22, 23, and 24 is a decrease. Row 18 is going to be 2 single crochets and 1 decrease for a total of 18. 1, 2, 3 is a decrease. 4, 5, 6 is a decrease, 7, 8, 9 is a decrease, 10, 11, and 12 is a decrease, 13, 14, 15 is a decrease, 16, 17, and 18 is a decrease. Okay, you should have your head done and your 2 little arms. And now I said we were gonna attach the arms, but I forgot. I gave him a little collar. So we got to do the collar first and then the arms. So we're just gonna take, if you haven't already, cut your string from your head and take out that last decrease because we have to attach the blue. So you're going to start your last decrease on the head and then stop when you get your 3 loops. And then we are going to attach our blue. And I did this a couple of months ago, so I don't really remember what I did. I just have a couple of notes jotted down. So hopefully I don't screw this up too bad. All right, so you are just going to pull your blue through those 3 loops to finish off that row. We're going to do row 19, but we're going to split it into 19A and 19B. So 19A for the collar, we're going to go in the front loops, and 19B for the arms, we're going to go in the back loops. Okay, so for 19A, in the front loop, we're going to do a slip stitch, a chain 1, 9 half double crochets. In the front, we're going to do a chain 2 and a slip stitch, and then we're going to reverse that and go backwards around the other way. Reverse. Repeat and reverse is what I have. Anyway, I'm going to go slow and you will just do it with me anyways. So in the next stitch in the front loop, so if you're not familiar with front loop or back loop, if this is your stitch, you usually go, let's get rid of this. You usually go down under both loops. For the front loop, we are going to come down and up through the first part of the V. And when we do the other side, our next row for the back loop, we're going to be going down into the other V. Okay, enough chit-chatty. Okay, so we're going to start with a slip stitch in the next front loop. And then we're going to chain 1, and in that same stitch we're going to do our first half double crochet. So for a half double crochet, you yarn over into your stitch, grab your yarn, pull up and through. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, and you just grab your yarn and you go through all 3. If you like a little longer one and you're familiar with the double crochet, you can try that as well. So we'll do that one more time, nice and slow, and then we'll speed her up. So yarn over into your front loop, grab your yarn, pull up and through, grab your yarn, and then pull through all 3 loops. So that's 2, and we need 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then I have chain 2, 1, 2, and then you're going to slip stitch back down into that same stitch. And that should give us some kind of a point on the collar in the front. And then we're going to go to the next stitch, and we're going to go opposite of what we just did. So we'll go slip stitch, chain 2, and then in that same stitch we'll do our half double crochet, and then we should have 8 stitches left. So that was 1 of 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And now you're just going to fold that down if you can. And we want to go into these back loops. I don't know if it's going to fold down for me. It's not. It's too narrow there, I think. If you can, get that out of your way. Now in the back loops, you're going to do 3 single crochets. This is row 19B. 1, 2, 3. Now grab one of your arms with the strings facing to the front, so it should be to the left. Unless, I guess, if you're left-handed crocheter, maybe it's the other way. I'm not sure. I tried to watch one video a while back that was left-handed, and I used to think, you know, really it's the same stitches, so you just got to know your stitch count. But no. I mean, maybe in some pieces, but I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have followed that and done it. Anyway, so we're going to do 3 single crochets to the arm and the head. And then we should have 6 single crochets across the front. And make sure you're going in the next stitch all the time. It's really easy to go in the same stitch because they're stretched a bit. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then now grab your second arm with your strings facing the front, or for me, it's the right this time. Yeah. And we're going to do 3 single, oh boy, tongue-tied. We're going to do 3 single crochets through the arm and the head. 1, 2, and 3. Just when I thought I was starting to get professional, more professional, I just got to screw it up. Okay, and we should have 3 stitches left. 1, 2. And gotta get down in that last third one. 3. Okay, it's gonna get easier now. For row 20, it's gonna be 2 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. And so our next stitch should be right in here. And if for some reason you go around and you can't get 24, just add your extra stitch at the very end or decrease or whatever you need to do. Okay, 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4, 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, increase, 15 and 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, and an increase, 23 and 24. For rows 21 to 23, you're going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. So that'll be 3 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That's one of 3 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So that's 2 of 3 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I feel like I sped up. I hope I'm not going too fast now. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. For round 24, we're going to do 3 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, and an increase, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, and an increase, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, and an increase, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, and an increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, 23, and an increase, 24 and 25, 26, 27, 28, and an increase, 29 and 30. Rows 25 and 26, we are just going to do 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, one more row of 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Row 27, we're going to be splitting into an A row and a B row again. So for 27A, we'll be going in the front loop, just 37 single crochets all the way around. So get in that front loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, whoopsies. There we go. 12, I hope. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Now for 27B, we're just going to do the same thing in the back loop. 30 single crochets all the way around. So, I start in the right spot. No, I didn't. I started in the next. Doing some magic tricks there with my hook. To make sure you're starting on the inside, not on the back loop of the row you just did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, what was that? 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and that last little back loop is going to be down low and tight, and 30. If you can't get it, just do an increase there. This isn't too exact. If you have to be, nobody's going to be coming in and checking if you did an extra stitch somewhere or not, as long as you end up with the same stitch count. For rows 28, 29, and 30, it's just going to be 30 single crochets all the way around. So that's 3 rows. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So that's one of 3 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So that's 2 of 3 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. For row 31, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 decrease, for a total of 24. Oops. 1, 2, 3, decrease for 4, 5, 6, 7, decrease for 8. My guy is starting to hit stuff here. 9. Oh, I can't reach now. 10, 11, decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, decrease for 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24. We're just going to put our hook down for a few while we get him ready up top before we close him up and do the legs. Okay, so grab your stuffing, unless you are confident in putting your eyes on as it is. I want to stuff it so I can see the placement, exactly how it will be once I'm done. Okay, that's good enough for now. So this should be easy to find your center this time because you have your little collar here. So I'm just going to go up to about, I don't know, here-ish. I might be up 1 row too high, I feel. But that feels like center to me. Now we are going to count down from your first loop as row 1. And we're going to go down to row 10, and we're going to put our eyes between row 10 and 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, and I did get in the right spot. So between 10 and 11. And we're going to count 3 holes over and put it in the 3rd hole. So 1, 2, and 3. So it's going to go in there. Actually, now that they're oval, I wonder if I should go 1 stitch over yet. Ooh, these have different backs on them, and they're a little trickier to get in there. There we go, kinda. You know what, I am going to do 4 just because when I pull it in, I don't want them to be touching. So you decide 3 or 4 for yourself. The one I've done up there, that is 3. And then I'm going to go 4. You can go 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then get that in there. I gotta check my camera because everything just shut off on me. Doesn't look like anything important was missed. Just panning back down to my eyes. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I'm gonna come in like this. So if you stuffed your head, pull that out so you can get the backs on. And I'll probably struggle with these ones because they have to go on a certain way. They have to match up on the post, which is good. They're better than my other eyes, but I just gotta make sure I have them on right. And they're a lot harder to push on. Ooh, there's one click. If you're using the oval eyes, make sure you have them. I'm gonna tip mine down a bit, I think. And then give it a squeeze. Oh, I can't even get it. Okay, I'm gonna do something different with that one. Okay, let's try the other one. And I'll do that part off camera. Wonder if I slipped over somehow off the post. Oh, I can't even push that. Shit. Oops, sorry. Oh, that went good. So I'm gonna tip that a little bit, see if I can get it on. No, I'm going to have to get something to push down, like a pair of pliers or something. I will be right back. All right, they're on, but I had to go get a hammer too, finally. Okay, so we can put our stuffing back in there. And remember when you're stuffing them for the final time to be careful not to overstuff up in here. You can see there's already holes where I decreased. You don't want to stretch them any more than they already are. Okay, those seem far apart now. They're definitely not. Uh-oh, hopefully that's okay. Looks like a little alien now. And then put a little bit of stuffing in the body. He didn't want to stay up. I definitely got his head stuffed more than the other one. I find I'm overstuffing a bit on the second ones I do. Okay, so now we are going to try and find the center and then the sides, so that we can start his legs. So you just want to kind of come down like he's a little triangle. And then find whichever way. Okay, so I'm going to start there. So this is going to be the front side of your guy, and this is going to be the back side. So starting in this one for the front, you're going to count 6 stitches over, including that stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is going to be your first leg, and this is going to be your second leg. So we're going to go over 1 stitch into the 7th one. So we're now in the 2nd leg. And now we're going to count over 12 stitches, including the one your needle's in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're going to put your needle into that stitch. And then you're just going to mark that off. I'm going to tie a little piece of yarn there so that we don't go over onto that side at all when we're doing our first leg. And just tie a bow or something so it's secure but easy to undo. And then stuff it in that other side and forget about it. And then get your needle back in your stitches. I need a little bit more stitch marker. Okay. So for row 1 of the leg, we are going to do 12 single crochets all the way around, but we're going to stay out of this stitch that you marked off and out of this stitch that you marked off. So 1, and we're doing 12 single crochets. 2, turn around. Don't worry if you're where I am, as long as you have 12 single crochets going around. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. For rows 2 to 6, you are just going to do 12 single crochets, whoops, all the way around. So that's 5 more rows, or 5 times 12, which is 60 stitches. 1, 2, don't forget this little funny one here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60. And we're just going to temporarily, actually we shouldn't have finished that last stitch. I guess we have to. So cut that. We're going to change, I guess I use black. I don't know if his feet are brown or black. I forget now. Leave this like this for now. And then we are going to move on to this leg and go up. And then we'll do his shoes last. So we're just going to pin this leg down out of our way. And make sure you pin it so that you're not going to be getting poked when you're going around. Grab your blue again and make a knot with a loop, but leave a tail, probably, I don't know, 8-ish inches long, so that you can use that to sew up the hole between the legs when we're done. And we're just going to attach our yarn right in the back, so make sure you're in the back, front to back. Attach our yarn right where we marked off that stitch, and then we can get rid of this, get it out of our way. Attach our yarn. I know it's fiddly. And you're just going to do a chain, and then your first single crochet is going to go in that same stitch. So I'm going to do row 1 right now, 12 single crochets all the way around. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and I have an extra stitch here, so I just got to recount that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh no, that's my other leg. There's a single crochet in there. Okay, and my leg just came unpinned. Perfect. So grab a little stitch marker if you're using one. And now we're going to do rows 2 to 6. So another 60 single crochets all the way around, or 5 rows, whichever way you prefer. But you probably want to mute me because I know it's super annoying to have someone counting different numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Change your marker. It's not going to be in there very tight probably, so be careful not to pull it out. And then make sure you're going in the next stitch and not skipping a stitch here. So 13, oops, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. These pins don't do a very good job. $25, $26, $27, $28, $29, $30, $31, $32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60. And don't finish that one off because we are going to change to whatever color you've decided to use for shoes. I'm going to use black. The trouble with picking his colors was every movie scene that I could find on Google, he was always like in the dark, so it was hard to tell. And I just didn't know if I could watch a 30-year-old movie or whatever it was. I'm sure it came out in the 80s or 90s when I was a teenager. Out back on the VHS tapes. Oh, I might be thinking of Friday the 13th. I don't know which one came first. Cut Your Blue. I'm sure they all came out about the same time. Okay, so for row 7, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase for a total of 18. So 1. Oh, my lights are in my way here. I'm going to try and do it close so you can see it because it's black. And 2 is an increase, so, and 3, so 4. Oh my goodness. Sorry guys. 5 and 6 is an increase. My phone won't stay where I want it now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What is happening when I look away? Hold on. When I look away, my phone changes angle for some reason, falls down. Okay. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You guys are probably done this row now. 8, 9. I'm going to speed up a bit. 10. Increase 11 and 12. 13. Increase 14 and 15. 16. And an increase 17 and 18. All right. For row 8, you're just going to do 18 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And that is not even showing. Oh, there. Well, too late now. All right, so now we're going to add stuffing to our leg. You may need to put a little bit in the body. Mine's pretty heavy already, but usually it tends to slide up there anyway, whether you need it there or not. And we want to have the leg on the firmer side so that he can stand up. But not so firm that you have your stuffing coming out the top, because we want that part of the leg to be flat. So I just put a little bit extra down in so that I can kind of squish it back after I'm done. And try your best not to get stuck in the stuffing, because it shows really good on the black and is tricky to get out. All right, so now for row 9, we're going to go in the back loop and we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease for a total of 12. So I know you probably can't see this. Well, by now you don't need to see, you can just listen. Whoops. So 1 and 2 is a decrease. Oh, I'm at a bad angle. I can't twist. 3 and 4 is a decrease. Try and use your finger to keep that stuffing out of your stitches. Oops, did I say that? 5 and then 6 is a decrease. Just take your time. I have no idea where I am. 7, I think. 8 is a decrease. 9, 10 is a decrease. 11 and 12 is a decrease. And then for round 10, we're just going to do 6 decreases. 1. Oh, I got a big chunk of stuffing. 2. 3. 4. Whoops. 5. Whoops. 5 and 6 decreases. And then you're just going to slip stitch in the next stitch. And we're going to tie that off and close it up. This is your last chance to put any kind of stuffing in that leg. So if you need a little bit more, put some in. Mine is, but make sure it's going to stay flat. And then we're just going to sew that closed. And we're going to get rid of my stitch marker too. You're just going to weave in and out. And I know I got a mess there. That's going to be a pain in the butt, but so back and forth. I'm going in the top loop of my last 6 stitch decreases. I knew that was going to happen. And then just give it a tie. And then you're going to bring it down in somewhere through the center and out through his back, fairly close to the bottom of his legs. And then you're going to unpin this side, and I am going to do that off camera. You're going to change your color right here, and then do your last 4 rows, and I will put a screenshot in the next frame for the last 4 rows, just in case that's something that you can't remember and you need to see, and then I will join you back up to get rid of all these strings. Okay, you should have a guy looks similar to this, and I will tell you I am regretting using these eyes now. I'm going to put a little screenshot at the beginning as a warning, just in case you guys don't like them either. So we should have our bottom string to fix the hole in the middle. Where's that from? Our 2 feet tails, and then our 2 arm tails left. So let's start with sewing up the little hole, and it's barely even sewing. I don't know why there's a black string right there. Anyway, so you're going to be going into these 2 holes and these 2 holes, and you're just going to go back and forth once or twice. So come up through the front and then go over that stitch and out through the back, and always make sure you're catching that one little stitch in between. And then we're just going to give that a tie. Just catch one stitch on the inside somewhere. Nice and tight. And then go down through that one of those same holes so you can hide that knot, and then come up through the back somewhere. And then for the legs, excuse the mess of fuzz, you're just going to pull them down so they're nice and flat. A little concave is okay because there will be a little bit of give right here after you tie your knot. And then just pull till you're happy with where they're sitting, and then give it a good secure tie, and then hide those ends. Give them a cut. These should pop right back in. And then we're going to tighten the arms. So you're just going to insert your hook in the last stitch that you use to attach your arms to the neck, and then come out to the center back somewhere. Do the same thing on the other side. Out through the center back. Same place that your other string came out. And then you're just going to give them a little pull to kind of bring that knot in a bit and the arms forward a little bit so they're not floppy if your stitches weren't that tight. And pull this as much or as little as you want. You don't want them to come forward too much. But if you flip it around and just kind of watch, see where you're happy. Most of you, I'm assuming, have probably made a bunch of these already. You know, like I do, how tight you want that. But if this is your first time watching, I would recommend turning them around and just kind of watching at the same time. And then pull that through. Okay, now we're going to make this little seam up his front so he looks like he has a little zipper or buttons, whatever they are. The only thing I have written down is chain 6 with long tail. So we're going to chain 6, and then we're just going to attach it in and out with our thread. But I've noticed this guy, his little frill that separates the top from the bottom seems to want to stay up. You might want to make your tail a little longer and go and sew this down. I'm not going to in the video, but if it bugs me enough, I might do that at a later date. Okay, so leave your long tail however long you want it. Ooh, that's way too big. And then we are gonna chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And before you tie that off, just kind of hold it up. Make sure that it's long enough. It's going to go in front of this and under that. And if you did make it a little, like you're not sure and it's a stitch too big, this, you can pull that inside and make it like kind of stretchy. So I'm going to tie that off with a bit of a tail. Whoops. And then we're going to put one end, your shorter end probably, at the top. Or how would that work? And we're going to sew down so that if you want to go around here, so actually, yeah, put your longer end at the top. Then when you get to the bottom, you can either tie it to this end or you can go around and then tie it. So right in the middle under the collar, and then come down in the center. Nope. You're going to want to come right beside, aren't you? Because you're sewing that down. Sorry, it's been a while since I did this. And then you're going to put your other end in the bottom. Right wherever your figure center is. I'm only bringing it out just so I can tie it. So get that how you want it. You want to make sure it's fairly straight. You can pin it if you want. Let's just do that just in case you want to pin it yourself too, because this could go over one's. Okay. Then you're just going to go up and down, kind of in the middle, if you can, just to kind of secure it. I don't think you have to be too fancy with how many times you go in and out. Just make sure it stays straight. Oh, that's a problem. And I'm going to come up one more time, just because I made this first loop a little big. So maybe I can kind of pull it down a bit. So if you're going around, you'll go around now. I'm not. I'm just going to tie it. Actually, I'm gonna tie it on the other end. Maybe nah, it's good enough. Do yours a little nicer than I did mine. You can kind of tell what I've done here. Shoot. I should be redoing this, but see, I can still see my little knot right there, and that should be pulled down. Maybe I'll try and do that right now. I should have gone under here, but okay, and then give that a little clip. Now we are going to give him a little nose, and this is where, depending on how far apart your eyes are, we're going to be doing something a little different, because I usually go by where the eyes are, and now mine are far apart. So find what row your eyes were put in, and then you're going to go down 1, 2 rows and put your pins in. If you did them closer together, you're going to be just on the inside of your eyes. So like about here. What you want is to have about 4 stitches wide, so you'll have your pin, 2 holes, and a pin, and that should work evened out between the eyes. And then should we pin his little face too? For his mouth, we're going to go 2 more down. If you want a small mouth, you're going to go inside where your nose pins are, 1, 2, and 3. If you want a little bigger mouth, you're going to go even or just outside where his pins are. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes between my mouth because I'm going to do a bigger mouth. And for his eyebrows, we got a different color, yellow. We're going to be a little different here too. If you want them on an angle, you're going to kind of go above his eye just to the inside of his eyes, not quite, and go over, I don't know, about 3 stitches, just so you're kind of at the outside of his eye. So I went, so about right here. So something pretty similar to that. You can play with them a bit as you get going. So let's do his nose first. And you're just going to come close to the nose somewhere and come up where your pin was. So we're going to be going green to green and leave a little bit of string here for tying afterwards. And we're just going to go, whoopsies, don't want that in there. Just going to go around a few times. As many as you want till you get the feel that you're going for. I think I usually go around 5 or 6 times. But I have gone around more and less. Okay, I think that's about where I want it. Whoops, I have to go one more time now because I came up. And then you're just, when you're finished, you're just going to come out where you originally put your yarn in. And then you're going to give it a tie. Careful not to put a lot of tension on your nose because you don't want to change it. And then you'll just pull this out the back somewhere, going through that same hole that you've been working in. You may need to hold your nose so you don't pull it. Where's this from? This is not... Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. Okay. Cut those off. Okay, grab a little scrap of black. Get that on your needle. After getting his nose on, I've changed my mind about his mouth, and I am going to move my pins over a little bit. So I now have 3 holes in between. I'm just outside the nose a little bit. All right, so how do we want to do this? We start in the center. Guess we're going this way. So go to where my first yellow pin is, and you want to get about half your thread on each side, because we are going to do it kind of like we're mirroring each side. That way it's a little easier to get even. Oops. So go back down in there and over, and hopefully we don't see this black thread underneath between his eyes. I think it'll be okay. Then you're going to go over to my green pin, side if that's long enough and the right angle, and then come down to the red pin. And out, and we're going to take off our needle and put it on the other side. Oh, we probably could have done one more with that, but okay. Now kind of make sure they're going to be the same. And I think I'm happy with that. So go in where that green pin was. And this time we are going to come out just below where we want his mouth. have a look at his eyebrows. Might want to pull those a bit. And see, this is why I should have kept it on one more pin. So we can go down through the other red pin and then come out the bottom to tie that off. And then we're just going to give it a tie, remembering that one side's pulling on the mouth and one side's pulling on the eyebrow. So just be gentle when you give it a tie. And then get rid of those out the back. Clip the ends off. Oh, you might look okay. Okay, grab your white or a scrap of white that's about a length and a half of your arm. That's probably a little more than you need, but it's better to have a little extra. And using this as your center, I'm going to come up one side. It doesn't really matter which side you go into. We're going to tie that. Let's see. Let's go. We're going to go to the front of his eye and then to the outside of his eye, leaving quite a bit of string that has to wrap around his neck. And then you're going to go over to the front of his eye. And then down closer to the outside of his eye when I fix this mess. And then you're going to come back down in where you started, because we're going to tie that after we kind of tighten it up. You can go a couple more times across if you know what you're, if you're experienced and know what you're doing. If this is your first time, try it this way. You can always change it. Push in his eyes a bit, and you're going to pull them in and kind of down. That's a little too much. Why is that eye twisting like that? So something quite similar to that, or whatever you prefer. And then we're going to give that a good tie, trying to hold that tension there. It will relax a little bit because we're tying it on the inside. And then we're going to take each end and weave it in and out around his neck. Just right where the white and the blue meet. Make sure where your knot is, you go in to that stitch so we're not seeing it. And then just weave in and out, right where the blue and the white meet. So you get around to the center back. Pick a stitch. Usually I'd pick over here, but I think I'm going to pick this one. And then go to the other side and do the exact same thing, going the other way. Make sure you go in where your knot was. And then weave in and out just where the blue and the white meet. Try not to skip any stitches. And if you're where I'm at, coming up, and you're not at the same spot that you came out there, skip this stitch and come up through where your other yarn came through. I notice every time I tie it on the inside, it's like that, and then if I don't tie it, it's fine. So you're going to give this a very, very light tie, just so you have the ends where you want them. Don't have them crossed until you do this little tie. Now keep them exactly the same way, facing how you had them. Turn your guy around. Oops. Now you're just going to pull them nice and tight to kind of shrink in his neck a little bit. Now his arms might pull up a bit, and be careful not to break your strings. And when you're happy, flip them over, hang on to one string, and then tie. Don't let go of that one string, because you want to always have it on the right side. Oops, I let go. That was bad of me. There we go. And then you're just gonna hide those ends in. I'm going to keep them in the back, I think. See, I have way too much, but that's okay. We can use it somewhere else. Not on this guy probably, but another one. All right, now do we just have the hair? Okay, now we are going to do his hair. Just kind of find where you want his forehead to start. And his hair kind of goes across and then kind of drops straight down and then over. So I'm kind of going to have my hairline like that. So just find the center, put a pin in. This might not be where you end up keeping it. This is just for a general guideline. So kind of, it's a little, kind of between his eyes and his arms is where I'm putting the next pin. And I kind of stayed, no, I went one row down. So somewhere between his eyes and his, and then it just came down to the middle of his arm. And about even with the row that his mouth is in. And the same thing, trying to keep it kind of even on each side. And again on the same row as his mouth. I don't know, I always feel like this side's wrong, but then, okay. So, what do I have up here? Nothing. I have to use my book. You might want to use something a little smaller than what I'm about to use, because this will be way too long. And if you like the color that I'm using, I absolutely love this brown, but I only picked up one ball. I've never seen it. I usually buy my yarn at Walmart, so it's usually the same yarn all the time. Every once in a while they'll get a new, and if you do, always buy 3 of that color if they get something I haven't seen. I don't know, I think there was only one of these left, that's why I only got one. So this one's called Coffee Grounds. I guess online you probably could find it somewhere. But I find, I don't understand yarn prices online. Like, if I go on Amazon to look at yarn, this $5 Walmart yarn is like between $23 and $104 for one. I don't get it. Anyway. And I don't go anywhere else because you can get the free shipping on Amazon, so I know there's probably other places you could get cheap yarn, but So whatever you have, kind of find the length you need. Make it a little longer than you want. So I'm going to go about to his waist and then to the center of his head and then double it. And that will give you way more than you need. I used my cell phone, I think, last time. Yeah, well, I could go this way. It's pretty close. So I'm just going to show you how I did it. So you're just going to wrap your yarn around and around. Probably go for 50 to begin with, and then slowly go in smaller increments. And when you have a good amount on there, just clip the one end. I just cut right there, and then go across and cut all your yarns. I think I'm wrecking this book. It was rough already, but I can see him. Oopsie. Someone's going to be not happy. And then you're just going to come in kind of in the center. That one pin's going to be in my way. That's better. That's better. Fold your yarn over, grab it with your hook, and then you're going to pull it around this round, and you're going to grab it again and pull it through that loop. I believe I just kind of followed this to begin with, and then I did a whole bunch here, but recently I did, what's her name? Tiffany Valentine, the Chucky's Bride girl, and I started here and I went around and around and around till I got to my marker, and then about here, and that really filled this area in nice. And then I slowly started going back and forth on each round, about every 2 stitches till I got about halfway, and then I did every 3. Now I don't know if he needs that much hair, but you're just going to have to play with it, because I am not a hair expert. I'm still not happy with the hair I did. And I think I always cut it too short too. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'll go put my own hair on this guy. So you know what? I was going to do this and then come back and do my outro. But really, I'm going to, because I won't have time to even think about editing tonight if I do that. So I think what I'm going to do, we'll pretend he has hair, and then I'm just going to outro this guy. Oh yeah, I won't have a picture of his eyes. But you know what? Ooh, I just broke a nail somewhere. Oh no, where'd it go? Gross. Sorry. I mean, I think he looks okay once he has hair. Hopefully. Okay, so, I guess, if you like my videos, don't forget to, hit the subscribe button, and you will be notified, every time I load a new video. If you've heard this a zillion times and you're already a subscriber, I thank you so much. I appreciate you helping me grow my channel. I especially love to see your comments and all the positive support I'm getting, as well as I do have a Facebook page, a craft page, I should say, and there will be a link down in the bottom that if you want to go over there and have a visit, you can find the YouTube post or the post for the original video if it's up there yet, and leave me a comment with your photo, as well as, actually I should line them all up. 1 second. There we go. We have Jason and Freddie and Michael, Chucky, Tiffany, and Sam. And it all started with requests from you guys. So thank you. You have definitely challenged me. I feel like I've really upped my game from before even Halloween, to be honest. So keep sending in the requests. I always love to get new ideas, and then I just decide if my skill set can create that. So I hope you all have a safe and great day, and hopefully I see you in one of my other videos, and happy crocheting.